Hello everyone and welcome back to another D&D horror story video. I want to say thank you very much for all the support in the last couple videos that I do. I upload twice a week, or at least try to, my very best. So subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube stuff, and we'll just get right into it. This one's comes from Mild Sriracha 18, DM on a power trip. This story isn't exactly a huge horror show, but I thought I'd share nonetheless. I have a great D&D group for which I typically DM. However, one of our players, let's call them Jay, has taken up DMing as well. They've been running great campaigns for years now, and I genuinely enjoy being part of them. They've just announced their next campaign, and naturally everyone in the group is excited. We all get the lore document and other campaign stuff to read, and everyone gets to work on making characters. So the setting for this campaign is essentially a giant dungeon. Everyone is trapped in a town at the bottom of the dungeon, and no one has ever, I can't read apparently, and no one has ever been to any of the higher levels, save for the one above the town. Seeing that the setting is a huge dungeon, I float the idea to Jay about playing a character who studies the traps in the dungeon. One guy wants to play a wizard who wants to go into the dungeon to be a hero. Another wants to play a cleric who tends to the graves of the town. Simple ideas, but relatively normal concepts. Not to Jay. Jay sends each of us an individually personalized triad about tirade. I really can't read today. I am sorry, guys. A personalized tirade about how no one has done anything that can even remotely work, and no one understands their setting. They're the DMs, so they can deny ideas, sure, but it was a bit harsh. So now everyone gets to making new characters. This time I decide to make a character inspired by Orpheus, except going up into a dungeon rather than down into the underworld. Others make their own ideas, all of which seem to work well to my understanding. Once again, everyone is lambasted, called too stupid to make a character that fits the setting, and all sorts of things like that. Then Jay starts going off in the campaign server about how no one understands their stories, and saying that they make too high concept for games for us to even comprehend. The lore doc is taken down as they plan to rewrite it to remove any chance of confusion. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like the DM is on some kind of power trip, saying everyone is an idiot compared to their narrative genius. Also, not to be petty, but their campaigns have been about going to an adventuring academy and being part of a thieves guild before this. Fun games, but not exactly groundbreaking concepts that only a true genius could understand. TLDR, DM goes on a power trip saying all their players are too stupid to understand a simplistic campaign concept. Your DM sounds very... I think he also has noticed that he's been kind of playing it fast and loose with you guys for a while now. And he put a lot of effort into this next game, like to show you that he's got the chops or whatever. And his disappointment when it comes to your characters is probably because you guys are used to him DMing a certain style. Now, if he sat you down and talked to you about the style that he wants, this would have been solved completely. Calling people too stupid, or at least insinuating that, is not the way to go. Insulting someone's choices in character creation is something you can't really come back from, because then they're always going to wonder if their character is something that you want in your campaign. But other than that, this DM sounds horrible. So that's what I got for that. This one comes from No Tackle 4526. My terrible first time DMing. This is the story of my first time DMing. The story happened about 2.5 years ago. I wanted to run a D&D game for a while, as I grew up playing D&D, and it had been years since I had played. When creating this campaign, I got 5 friends from my school, none of which have played D&D before, and helped them create their characters for the campaign. I didn't really have a good idea of what I wanted to do or what I wanted it to be. I just knew I wanted it to show conflict between different races. On the first session, I and the players started in a market when a building appeared to explode and the people got distracted. The players go into an alley where they encounter a DM PC I made. I'll add that I haven't used a DM PC since then, and I'm not a big fan of them. This DM PC, who I called, let's just say Drex, needed their help to break into the castle to find something. Been a while, I forgot. And then they had to leave through the sewers. In the sewers, they fought some rats and some guards. However, they were at level 2. Almost all the players went down. However, Drex, my DM NPC, was much stronger and was level 5. Drex easily killed the enemies, and they were able to flee to the shore. Aside from this, for the first session, it was very poorly planned. I used a present script. Oh no, you used a script. Which I was very against differing from, and mostly told the players how to progress. The players were very against roleplay. Understandable, they had not played D&D before. And a lot of the time was spent on their phones while I was just talking. I also used AI to enhance the script I wrote for the sessions, something I did to lengthen the time frame. It barely did anything. Later in the campaign, the party found a village. I attempted to put hints for the plot in this village, such as some teenage goblins drinking a purple liquid. However, they were ignored in favor of attempting to get the innkeeper to give the entire inn for free. When bandits attacked, they successfully killed them all. However, as they charmed one, after he died, they tried to bring him back for some reason. Be it a lack of experience or wanting to just progress, I allowed this, giving the party a pet NPC called Gary. So now the party had an OP party member, played by me, and a bandit who randomly decided to join the enemy. At that point in the campaign, the players reached a desert and were attempting to escape a cave-in treasure room, or caving in treasure room. I don't know. They found a pressure plate which opened the exit door. However, it only worked when stood on by a person for some reason. By this point, Gary had already died, so they couldn't leave him. Not that they would have anyway. And I refused, because it would progress the plot later, to let Drex stand on the plate. They were really clever with this trap and used their rope to pull the last through the door without dying. This trap was very bad in hindsight, as there were no in-game ways of solving it, and they just needed to bullshit their way out. We had a few sessions, we had a few more sessions mostly, where they lost their belongings in a raid and had to get it back in an auction, but the campaign mostly died out. And I was pretty sick of the story, honestly. After we stopped, I decided to tell them that what would have happened. They would have reached Drex's camp, and after heading back to the original town, Drex would betray them for some reason. Drex was simply stronger, so he could be the BBEG. Not even a good one, just a bad twist villain. This put me off DMing for a while. Luckily, about 4 months later, we gave it another shot. The campaign being one of my favorite, it went through to its conclusion and lasted almost a year. Of the 4 campaigns I've run, the first is the only one not set in my world which I have created. I am planning my 5th campaign right now, and the 4th in the world I have created. I have been able to show multiple friend groups D&D, and I am happy about that. Thank you for reading. This was actually a really nice D&D story. I don't think that's a DM horror story. I think it was a DM horror story in the fact that you weren't prepared and you didn't do enough to engage your players. And the things you did do ultimately made your job harder, i.e. the DM NPC, the twist at the end, the fact that he had to get to the end for that twist to happen, meaning that DM NPC was invulnerable to dying until that twist happened for the story. But I think you saw the writing on the wall and it kind of fizzled out. And now you're running more games and it seems like the players haven't left, so you must be doing something right. Or at least they like hanging out with you. I think this was a happy D&D game. It started bad, but ended up in the good, which is very rare for a D&D game, or at least one in the D&D horror stories section on Reddit. This one comes from Primary Orchid 2311. No dice, D&D. The DM didn't use dice. Overall, the story was great. Had a backrooms homebrew type feel and creepy monsters, but we couldn't roll for anything. Every combat was just him deciding if we win or not, and we can't carry more than 2 items at once. Okay, whatever. More for the RP focus thing. Takes away a little player agency, but it gets worse. I complimented one of the NPCs to try and get them to help us. I said something like, "That hat looks really good on you," just for the sake of getting him to like us. And the DM literally said, and I quote, "Stop trying to fuck all my NPCs." Like, seriously. We then get into a boss fight, not too much later, and he says flat out that we can't kill it and would smite it if we give up one of our arms. Okay, that's a weird sentence. Which reduced our carrying capacity to 1 item. The game is practically not even playable anymore, but we press on, hoping it'll get better. Hint, hint, it does not. We get into the room that's full of corpses. I have a demonic type race that can eat flesh, and I ask if I can eat through the corpses. He said no, doesn't even let me try. I ask if I can move them. He says no again. I ask if I can use my weapon to chop up the limbs to make them easier to move. No again. Every single thing I try is a straight up no, without even letting me try. Edit. I have left after the 2nd session, and when I communicated that I didn't like my player agency being taken away, he banned me from the server. My friend stayed for another 2 sessions, hoping it would look up. It did not. Okay, so this DM wanted complete control over the game, and you guys let him have it. You guys essentially let this DM do pretty much anything and trusted him, which is a big thing you should do with your DM, is you should trust your DM's process. But to ask multiple times for a solution to the problem presented by the DM, and the DM constantly says just no, the fact that there's no dice lets me in on what he was trying to do. He fully controlled the narrative. You guys were just puppets. He could say yes or no to whatever he wanted the story to go. Oh, you want to talk to the person to help him, like to charm him a little bit or something? No. In fact, I'll take offense to that. So stop doing it. Or the corpses. If he's a demon race that can eat flesh, why not try and eat it? Like, it can't cut it up? Doesn't make sense, because you have a weapon to cut them up. It just seems like the DM wanted to write a book. Alright, well, I want to thank you all for joining me today on these D&D horror stories. I am sorry if they don't come out completely the greatest. I do have dogs barking in the background and vehicles rushing by, unfortunately, but I'm gonna try my best to get the audio to the best quality that I can for you guys. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched the video or listened to the video all the way through. It greatly increases my drive to make more videos, and of course, like, comment, subscribe, making that little DM just a bit bigger. With that being said, as always, have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.